Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghosts and Spirits Encounters video. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I thought I would mix this one in here just to dust it off and then showcase this particular creepy and scary encounter. The reason why I picked this one as well is because actually what it talks about here has happened to me. This had occurred over a couple of years back at the Haunted Magnolia Hotel there in Seguin, Texas. So I'm going to talk about this encounter here first, the one that's again found on reddit.com. They're from the subreddit called Paranormal Encounters. I'll give my own thoughts and opinions on it, and then afterwards, stay tuned because I'll rehash my own encounter involving footsteps, phantom footsteps, and then that way you'll hear all the details associated with that. Great stuff. So without further ado, let's start this entry here. It comes from a user by the name of JIzzy4U, and it's titled Mystery of the Phantom Footsteps. So again, let's go ahead and let's share this info. Let me know what you guys and gals think with regards to this encounter and the one that I'll describe here in just a few moments as well. So here's what it says. The children and I have always been in the habit of sharing spooky stories whenever they are in the mood for it. One of the things they enjoy is hearing about real-life events of the unexplainable type. I blame YouTube for this. Few of you know of the unexplained stories between all the family, many of which revolved around Jerome Street. However, this event occurred on Myrick Street when I was in college, so enjoy. It was late spring or early fall of 2001 or 2002. I was home alone during the week between classes and before work. No one was home that day. I awoke, took stock of a surprisingly empty house, ate breakfast, and then proceeded to attend to some laundry. I brought my clothes over from the second floor to the basement, where I proceeded to load the machine. As the water rose and I began to fill the machine, I distinctly hear what sounded like walking coming from the bedrooms on the top floor. And so I popped the machine's fill cycle off and then listened. Yep, I remember thinking definitely someone walking around on the second floor. Our Berkeley house is very old. I lived there nearly my whole life. I knew the creaks and cracking of old flooring and joints very well. This, I could tell, was someone dragging their feet in the hallway of the second floor. That's funny, I thought. When did someone get home? And so I stood there, listening intently, distinguishing that the person was moving deliberately through the last bedroom on the second floor. I stood very still, attempting to place who it was. The footsteps were heavy, leading me to believe it was either my father or my brother Justin, neither having a soft tread. As I listened, I distinctly heard individual steps being taken on each of the many steps leading to the first floor. Well, I better give a call out to whoever is home, I thought, to make sure that they did not lock me down there in the cellar. This has happened to me on more than one occasion. And so I called out Dad. There was no answer. I again hear slow treading leading down the hallway of the first floor, deliberate, slow steps heading towards the cellar door. And so I called out once more, Justin? Now the steps paused at the very top of the cellar stairs. I wondered to myself why this person has not returned my shouts. As I peer around the furnace towards the stairs that lead into the basement, I distinctly hear footsteps fall on the steps leading down towards where I was standing, hunched down in front of my washing machine. I continued to watch, though seeing nothing. And so I continue hearing footsteps after footsteps down the old aging stairs before me in the dark, cramped space of my parents' basement. Holy cow, I thought as I noticed that my heart skipped a beat. This is definitely happening. Don't forget, I remember that I was not in a state of panic, but I began to feel uneasy as the footsteps descended the staircase. I distinctly recall the sound change as whatever foot now struck the last descending step. It was an old handmade box that served as the final step, a hollow thud that differed from the sound of each preceding step. And so I think to myself, I definitely can't believe this, but it's real. And amazingly, the footsteps continued, dragging across the concrete floor of the cellar, purposely taking step after step towards me, standing there alone in the dark of the cellar, mouth wide open. The footsteps stopped less than 3 feet from me. I held my breath, wide-eyed, waiting for some sort of image to appear, some sort of sensation to overcome me, as they say often occurs in all of these ghost hunter shows. To my continued surprise, there was nothing. No sound, no sensation, no image of any sort. Just a young man, half-dressed, hunched over, listening to the quickness of his heart in a cold basement early in the morning, and the mystery of the phantom footsteps continues. Then that's it. That's everything that this encounter is from the user J is for you. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'll talk about that experience here. Creepy stuff, right? Apparently this happened there in an old home located on Myrick Street, wherever that is, back in 2001, 2002. And then that way, apparently he was living there at that time. And this happened while he was there washing some clothes in the cellar. And so there he was, essentially just downstairs in the cellar washing those clothes. And then he heard those footsteps coming right from above. He thought that he was by himself. Wasn't he, right? Because that's what he realized when he woke up and he saw an empty house about. But then all of a sudden it turns out he wasn't. And then whoever these footsteps were purposefully went from the very top, one of the bedrooms, down to the area by the stairs leading to the cellar, and then finally going all the way down the stairs. Now, normally in these encounters, whenever that happens, those footsteps will normally stop right in an area where you're about to see something. And it's almost like those footsteps, whoever the ghosts are that are doing them, realize that there has to be a point they have to stop. Otherwise, the party will see them or maybe not see anything. But in this case, they continue to actually go down. That's what made this story really, really rare. Because now those footsteps were being heard in all of their glory right in front of that user as the user was looking in that area, still seeing nothing, no ghostly apparitions, no shadow people, nobody that was physical, nothing. But the footsteps were still there. In fact, they were going up to that user, they stated, about 3 feet away from them. So pretty interesting, pretty rare when you have a situation like this of these footsteps going all the way up to the user to the point where they can clearly expect to see them if there was an apparition, but nothing is there. And then that was it. Nothing else really happened afterwards other than this ghost apparently deciding to stop and then not doing anything else afterwards. But still a memorable experience, creepy stuff. I've read about the phenomenon about phantom footsteps. It's the idea that ghosts are still tied to past occurrences, like they're still there, they're still living there. Either they lived there in the past or they decided to actually visit at some point at that location and then just never left. And so these footsteps are apparently tied to past activity. It's just them doing nonchalant activity that they did before in the past, and it's just a continued repeated cycle. In some cases, though, the footsteps are more intelligent, like in this situation here, but otherwise it's mainly just a ghost living out some past day in the history of its lifetime from before, and the user would have no idea of it because essentially it's only up to the ghost. The ghost, the one is the one that has the memory of it, and they're just nonchalantly just revisiting it right then and there. That brings me to my encounter that I had there in the Haunted Magnolia Hotel there in Seguin, Texas. This is the famous hotel that was made more famous by Ghost Adventures. Ghost Adventures, Zach and crew visited it a couple of years back and pretty much put the place on the map. Well, I went there by myself one time to just do my own investigation by myself, 100% by myself. The rest of the times I've been there with the group that I'm in, the ghost hunting group, but this time I was just by myself. And so the most of the night, up until a certain point, there was nothing. It was just me. And it was just me in the area there that could be considered a living room of sorts. And it was me just wide awake the whole night. I was literally all awake till about maybe 5 a.m. or so, just there waiting for something to happen. Now, I did explore a little bit more of the places here and there around that area. In fact, looking back, I consider myself pretty brave because some of those areas are supposed to be super haunted by bad entities too, including one of the rooms that's called the murderer's room. It's supposed to have a really bad ghost in there. And I was there by myself again, almost in the dark for about 10 or 15 minutes, just waiting for something to happen. I don't think I would ever do something like that again. But I was there, I was walking about, nothing, no smells, no sounds, no touches from ghosts, nothing. And so finally, like when it was almost again close to 5 a.m., and me thinking that nothing was going to happen, I was there back in the living room area, just sitting, almost resting in a sofa type bed, just splayed out, just waiting for the morning to come about. That's when all of a sudden behind me, there was these steps. Now, to give you a context, you're looking at a picture of that staircase here. This is the staircase that leads to the second floor associated with the Haunted Magnolia Hotel. The second floor is the actual entrance whenever you go there. And so whenever you go up the steps, they are very old, very, very old. Remember the story from this guy that I was just chronicling here a few minutes ago? He was stating that the place is very old, and so they recognize where those footsteps are. They make a very distinctive sound because of how old the material is, which just is the case here. This is as crickety and crackety as you can get when it comes to these very, very old 1800s steps. And so I was there just again in the living room, just minding my business, waiting for something to happen until it did. That's when I heard very heavy footsteps, one after the other, going up those stairs, the same stairs that I used hours before to get into the second floor. And again, me being by myself, absolutely no one there with me at all. And now there were these footsteps heading up to it. Now you might be wondering, well, maybe somebody else got into the actual hotel and I just wasn't aware. No way, because again, the place is very old. Those steps are very old. And then the doorway that you have to open to get to those steps is also very, very old. When you open it, it almost sounds like something from a creepy movie with the door creaking and cracking and doing all the noise possible once the door opens and closes. It's not silent at all, in other words. It makes absolutely just very loud sounds. So there would have been no way for me to have somebody come into that hotel. First, they would have needed a combination, which only I knew at the time. And number two, I would have heard that door open and close. Nothing happened like that. So something along the lines of a ghost was taking those steps. And I imagine if there was a camera on me at the time, my eyes would have gotten wide because it was one footstep after another, just a thump, 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 just something loud. I would have to say there's maybe about 5 footsteps in total. And so I thought to myself, what's going to happen when these footsteps reach the door that was next to me, that was closed at the time? What's going to happen? Is the door going to fly open? Is there going to be a knock? Am I going to see something go through the wall? Like, this was all going into my mind as those footsteps were slowly creaking up the actual location up into my area. And then just when I realized, what's going to happen, the footsteps stopped. They stopped. They must have stopped in an area close to the door, but not too close, but not too far away. And that's when I decided I'm out of there. I decided to leave shortly thereafter because I didn't want to take my chance anytime afterward with regards to what could happen next. So even though most of the night nothing happened at all, no ghostly encounters, no apparitions, no other sounds, nothing. It finally did happen right towards the end. That's when I heard those similar sounding phantom footsteps going up those stairs. Very distinct. It definitely sounded like a large male type footsteps, something large and big, that something like that would make. And it would sounded like they were having like heavy boots on them as well. And of course, I wasn't recording at the time because I was thinking nothing is happening. Let me just go ahead and wait this out. And so otherwise, if I would have my EVP on, like in other words, my recording device, at least for audio purposes, I'd be playing it here right now. But that's what happened. That's what happened right then and there. Very similar experience to what happened to this person. And so that's why I wanted to share it here. But otherwise, that's it. Let me know what you guys and gals think with regards to this. That remains one of the best encounters I've ever had in the world of paranormal. The only other one that beats it is the actual ghost opening the closet doors, the ghost of Edie over there at Fort Concho in San Angelo, Texas. That it was even more amazing. But otherwise, let me know what you guys and gals think with regards to my encounter and then also the encounter I mentioned just a few minutes back. All right, everyone. Thanks again as always. Take care.